What I call the sources of knowledge needs to be understood, and therefore whether we are dealing with the East or the West. First and foremost thing is that knowledge comes from sense experience. What does that mean is empirical experience is everything. What I can see and touch and feel is knowledge. Naturally, I cannot touch spirituality, I cannot touch whoever a people call their God. I cannot touch angels, I cannot touch what is life after death. All that phenomena which religions of the world, whether Judaism, Christianity, Islam or any other faith, they talk about with this one single word, that knowledge means sense experience, is set aside. Then we find another approach which says, well, it's not just sense experience, but intuitively inside me is a sensor which tells me is it good or bad. Therefore, my psychological feeling inside is the judge of what is right and what is wrong. And then comes the whole family of philosophers, theoreticians, whether they are religious or non-religious makes no difference, who say that our thought, our speculation, our thinking process is what gives us knowledge, and therefore rationalism and other approaches are there. And then lastly we find that some people think that an inner personal experience, which is known as mystical experience, can also provide some knowledge, but that knowledge is very, very personal and has no relevance to other people. Now, knowledge in pre-Islamic thought refers to what Greek and others believed, and we see that the classical Greek philosophy considers knowledge or episteme as science of information, knowledge about knowledge, or learning how to learn. And similarly, the highest form of knowledge in Greek thought is wisdom or sophia, which is knowledge of the whole, knowledge of totality, and for some, knowledge of first principles. What are the first principles on which human thought is to be constructed? And this is Plato and Aristotle. With this background, let us try to understand what is the scope of theory of knowledge. Next please. When we talk about scope of theory of knowledge, then we are saying what is knowledge of things, how and what we know about universe, human being, his origin, his role and place in universe, and what is man's ultimate destiny. This is the scope of knowledge. Then knowledge about the Creator or God, his existence. Is he all the time present, or just by once moving the pendulum he retired and now the pendulum is running without any mover? His power and authority, what are his domains? That brings us to the question, what is ultimately the origin of knowledge? Does it originate in speculation, in intuition, in mystical experience, in sense experience? And that leads us ultimately to production of knowledge, because when we know what is the origin of knowledge, only then we can produce knowledge. Let's move now towards Islamic theory or Islamic understanding of knowledge. Instead of all those sources of knowledge, the Quran claims that the real source of knowledge is revelation. Revelation or wahi is not a mystical experience. It is an experience of the truth, the guidance coming from beyond and supposed to carry burhan or evidence. I have selected every single word very economically. Therefore, if you look into those words, you will find out that what I am saying is that wahi is not subjective, that wahi is not finite and limited, that wahi is not temporal, that wahi is absolute and universal. And at the same time, wahi means that it also carries an evidence for its being wahi. This revealed knowledge or wahi is holistic totality. It is transcendent. It goes beyond all human limits of knowledge. It is objective and universalistic, and at the same time it is applied knowledge. It's not just theory, it's not just theology, speculative, systematic thinking as Buber calls it, but it's a matter of very deep knowledge coming from a source which is beyond human control and capacity. Now, revealed knowledge is the highest level of knowledge because it is above human beings' intellect. It envelops knowledge of the past, of present and future. And we have no human brain or mega computer which can say that it has that capacity of having all knowledge of everything of the past and all knowledge of everything of the present and all knowledge of everything of the future. Therefore, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone who has that capacity, and He alone can provide these three levels of knowledge to us. Therefore, the Burhan comes from the Quran. The Quran says ilm, knowledge in Islamic tradition is of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is unlimited. Inna Allah bi kulli shay'in alim, and wallahu wasi'un alim. The simple understanding is Allah has knowledge of everything, and Allah is immensely resourceful, all-knowing. He knows everything. As a generic and high frequency term, ilm has been repeated in the Quran in around 830 places, and that shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants His servants to explore, to understand and to increase their knowledge.